Now, the government is out and about on the south coast today, in St Leonard's, to be specific. They're trying to talk about high streets, they're trying to talk about pride in the community. But look, genuinely, it is one of those days where the future of the government, I think it's fair to say, does hang somewhat in the balance. The fury over Peter Mandelson's appointment continues. We're joined now by the Housing, Communities and Local Government Secretary, Steve Reed, who joins us now. Thanks for being with us. Look, I'm just going to kick off straight on Peter Mandelson. Keir Starmer appointed him to be US Ambassador when he knew he had an ongoing relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. He knew Peter Mandelson stayed in Epstein's kind of swanky New York townhouse after his conviction for child prostitution offences, child rape offences, let's be honest, because minors can't consent. I mean, this is just not OK in any way, is it?
Well, I mean, first of all, I share everyone's fury and outrage at what Peter Mandelson had been up to. We now know, because of the Epstein files being released in the United States of America, the extent of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, what he'd been up to, but also we now know the extent to which he had lied to the Prime Minister, the vetting process, the Prime Minister's team, ahead of that appointment being made. And of course, in the light of the information that now has come out, the Prime Minister deeply regrets ever having made that appointment. But he made it at the time because he didn't know these things. He knew that Peter Mandelson had been the EU Trade Commissioner and the UK Business Secretary. But had he known...
I'm just going to come in because, look, I accept that an awful lot of stuff has come out that Keir Starmer did not know at the time. But the two things that I mentioned, the government did know at the time. And I guess my frustration is, how can this government say you take violence against women and girls seriously when you appoint someone to this job knowing it? We talk about a paedophile ring. The way that women and girls are talked about in that email, frankly, makes me feel sick. And I know the main culprits are Epstein and the people he associated with. But, association matters too. Being friends with someone after they are convicted of child sex offences matters. And it should matter to this government, shouldn't it? You knew enough.
Of course it matters. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach, Sophie, when I found out what Mandelson had been up to, just as I know that you did and so many other people will have done as well. But there's 2 points here. First of all, the extent to which Peter Mandelson lied to cover up the extent and the depth of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, you won't have to just take my word for that, because the government is going to publish all the documentation involved in the vetting and appointment process, subject to the Intelligence and Security Committee checking.
Do you have a timeline on that? Just very briefly, is there a timeline on that publication?
Well, it will be in the hands of the committee, of course, and there's a police investigation quite rightly going into what Mandelson was doing in betraying confidential documents and information that he was given as a member of the cabinet at the time. It's quite right, that should go ahead, and quite right, it shouldn't be prejudiced. But subject to that, everything is going to be released, and in time, people will see all of it. Secondly, you mentioned violence against women and girls. That was one of the top 5 issues that we campaigned on in the general election. And we're taking action on that. We're putting a rape team in every police force. We're putting a domestic abuse team in every 999 team. We've banned spiking. We're working with schools to protect kids from the dangerous content that you find on the internet. We're looking at what the Spanish are doing with the algorithms to try and stop that content getting around. The Prime Minister stood up and took action against Grok because of the sexualised images of women and children. So yes, we take that seriously, but at the same time, we recognise absolutely how distressing, how angry we all feel about what Peter Mandelson has been up to.
Can I ask you about Morgan McSweeney? So this is the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, close to Mandelson. I think it's fair to say he kind of helped push through the appointment. He backed him. And you know Morgan McSweeney really pretty well. You go way back. You worked in Lambeth together. You worked for Labour together. So I'm really interested in what you say to this question. Is Morgan McSweeney safe in his job, and should he be safe in his job?
All that's happened here, it's dreadful what has happened here, but Peter Mandelson lied not only to the Prime Minister, he lied to the Prime Minister's entire team. He's betrayed the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, he's betrayed 2 Prime Ministers, and he's betrayed the country.
So none of that betrayed Morgan McSweeney, is that what you're saying?
He lied to everybody. Now, what people need to see the extent to which he lied, and that will happen as these documents are released, so people can see
Can you answer the question?
deception.
Is Morgan McSweeney safe in his job?
Yes, of course he is. The problem when someone lies isn't that they lie to you, because there can be liars in any walk of life. It's what happens when you find out you've been lied to. And what the Prime Minister did months ago was contact Peter Mandelson at 5 a.m. in the morning and sack him on the spot from his job as US ambassador. That was absolutely decisive action.
It's a massive misjudgment from Morgan McSweeney, at least, isn't it?
The person at fault here is not the Prime Minister or his team. It is Peter Mandelson, who lied, manipulated and deceived everybody, including the media, actually, because he made plenty of... He was on the media an awful lot as well. You know, he conned everybody.
Yeah.
What matters is what you do when you find out what's gone wrong. And the Prime Minister couldn't have been more decisive. He sacked Peter Mandelson at 5 a.m. in the morning as US ambassador months ago.
Look, to be honest, I take your point about the media. Just want to say that, you know, for the record. We are at a point of real danger for Keir Starmer's leadership. I've heard loads of Labour MPs, Labour ministers talking about it. I'm sure you must do as well. What's your message for the Labour MPs, for the ministers? Because there are many of them who might be thinking, look, Keir Starmer's done. It's time to change.
We're all reeling because of what Peter Mandelson has done. I would judge the Prime Minister not by the fact that Peter Mandelson lied to him, but by what he did when he found out, and he couldn't have been more decisive. He took out Peter Mandelson.
He knew
on the
some
spot
stuff before. I don't want to keep going on to it, but like he did know some stuff before, right?
Well, he didn't, because Peter Mandelson lied, and the extent of that lying...
Well, I spoke to Lord Glassman, for example, who said that he went to Number 10 and warned you about about Peter Mandelson, and Number 10 basically told him to, you know, shut up and go away. So that you know, Gordon Brown warned him. You know, I don't think it's... Look, you know, I'm not saying he knew everything, but he knew enough.
I wish people could tell when liars are lying. Unfortunately, we can't. But when the truth came out, the Prime Minister acted. And he didn't just act yesterday when the further revelations came out. He acted months ago and took Peter Mandelson out.
As we end, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about why you are in St Leonard's today. It's difficult, obviously, I know, for ministers who are out trying to drum up policy announcements, but you're talking about high streets, you're talking about pride in Britain, right?
Yeah, and thank you for that, Sophie. I mean, it is frustrating when, you know, horrific things like what Mandelson's been up to obliterate what the government's trying to do that is good for this country. But I'm here in Sussex today to talk about the fact that we've got an additional 40 places added to the 250 we'd already announced, but we'll be getting up to £20 million each to invest in improving areas that have been the most held back in the country. The first wave of areas, that we call them Pride in Place areas, the first wave of areas getting this money, 80% of them have decided to spend the money on improving their high streets, because the state of your high street, if it looks run down and boarded up and full of graffiti and litter, a place you used to go and meet friends in cafes now dead and boarded up, it tells you something very profound about the place that you care about the most. So we're giving people the funding and the powers they need to put pride back into their high streets up and down this country. That is real change that the government's making for people.
OK, Steve Reed, always good to have you on the programme. Thanks very much for...
Thank you.